Export for rendering, I need to go through and make sure that every single body in our drawing has a different random color assigned to it. And I'll just choose, when I choose the color thing, I need to make sure that I'm not choosing the face or the element, that I'm choosing the whole body. And when I look at that body, then I'm just going to give it some random color. It doesn't have to be anything in particular. It just needs to be different from everything else. So I'm going to go through that and do that for all the bodies in my assembly, and then we will regroup in a couple of minutes. Now it might look kind of silly, but this actually is going to make things a lot easier for us when we go out to render in other programs. In this case, I'm going to be rendering in Modo, and this is going to make our workflow quite a bit simpler. Before we export, I'm going to go ahead and Tools, Options, and make sure that in the document properties under image quality, my tessellation is set really darn high. I just want to make sure that I'm getting enough polygons in Modo to make sure that everything looks really nice. I'm also going to optimize edge length and click OK. This may make things run a little more slowly, and it may take a while because we have a lot of stuff going on here to regenerate the meshes. But now when we export these meshes, they'll be much cleaner for Modo. So I'm just going to go ahead and save the assembly, and actually when I save all, believe it or not, this is all I have to do. If I just save this assembly externally, it should contain the OpenGL meshes that are in Solidworks. So all I have to do is go to Modo and it will open the native Solidworks file directly. Let's give that a try and see what happens. So let's see what we can do in Modo. I'm going to go File, Open, and choose my French press top level assembly, just straight from Solidworks. I didn't export to anything special. Oh, and we crashed. Now let's see what we can do in Modo. I'm just going to go File, Open, and find my file one more time. Let's see what we can do in Modo. File, Open, and I'm just going to select my French press top level assembly, just the native Solidworks file, and there it is. Just opens it right up. It uses the OpenGL mesh that we saved, and all the colors that we created, importantly, are in place already. So all we have to do is apply the materials that we want to the existing nodes in the shader tree for Modo. So I have a ton of tutorials on how to do this, so I'm just going to go ahead and do it really quickly, and hopefully you'll be able to follow along. And if it's not enough, then you can follow one of my other tutorials to work it out. But so let's just move quick. I'm going to go to the Render tab and enable Global Illumination. Turn my ambient intensity down to 0%. I'm going to go down to my Environment tab. And actually, I'm not even going to make a custom environment. I'll just use my environments from one of my studio environments, let's say. Studio environments, and we'll choose maybe that one. Try that out. Just double click it to activate it. Pretty quick and easy. And I'm going to duplicate that environment and make the first one not visible to camera. Second one is only visible to camera. And delete the image map on the one that's visible to camera so that I can just make a constant white for my background. And in fact, I'm not actually even going to make it a constant white. Let's go ahead and make it a two-color gradient. I'll make the top part gray and the bottom totally white. That should give us a nice ramp from top to bottom. Makes it a little more realistic. Go back to my Model tab. I'm going to throw in a floor by shift-clicking on the Plane tool. And hit M for material. Call it floor. I'm also going to move it down just a smidge. Hit the W key on the keyboard and just eke that down a touch. And I'm going to take my floor and make it a shadow catcher. I'm going to drag it above the base shader, add layer, shader. With the shader selected, in the Properties tab, I'm going to change the alpha type to shadow catcher and set the material for the floor properties up to 100% diffuse, 0% specular, and that ought to do the trick. We can go back to our Render tab and see what we've got. And it looks like we at least have a shadow, which is a good start. Let's save what we're doing real quick. File save. Oops. I meant save as. Haha. And we'll save it as a LXO file. And let's move our light around a little bit. Go to my light, set that to be position x 0, y to 0 on the z, set it to -90 on the x and 0 on the other two, so we just get a nice straight down top light. I'm going to set my, I don't know what I just did there, change that, radiant existence down to maybe a half a watt, and if I go to the properties at the bottom here, I can set my spread angle to like 10 degrees, so we get a nice soft shadow underneath. That should be nice. Now all we have to do is define the rest of our materials, and each of these is an imported material just with usually one material inside it. To apply a preset, I'm just going to go to my materials presets, and let's to find what material is what, I can go to item mode, first of all, select an item, and you can't really select that item, but you go to materials mode, and you can click to select a material. Darn it, I always forget you can't do that. You go to items, and there's this supergroup that was created whenever you open up a file in Modo from Solidworks. If I right click it, I can go to change type mesh. That will make things a little bit easier to work with. It'll actually be heavier and probably go a little slower, but at least now we'll actually be able to find out what material is what by clicking on something, for example, and then in the shader tree it will automatically select that material. So here is the material for the top of this thing, and for that I want a textured plastic, so I'll just go to plastic and choose textured, and then maybe an empty, can't quite see the names of these, they're not quite big enough, but MT 1110 maybe, something like that, and delete the default one. And so we'll end up with a material. I'm going to go ahead and assign the rest of these materials and get back to you. Okay, I've just applied a whole bunch of materials to all of these. It took me about 5 minutes. It was no big deal. And now we have a basic rendering ready to go. I'm just going to go make sure that my resolution is set to something reasonable. Let's just say 1280 by 720, since that'll fit roughly on our screen here. And yeah, let's see where that gets us. I'll just go ahead and hit render, and let's try it out. Well, unfortunately, it looks like we ended up with a couple of blips in the render, a couple little bugs here and there. But it's nothing that we couldn't work out. I'm pretty sure that if I looked, I could pretty easily figure out what the problem is and fix it. But you saw just how quick this was. This was really a fast way to get from CAD to render. And it's really straightforward with a SolidWorks Modo workflow, which is kind of why I do it. So that's it, folks. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you find this useful. Definitely keep in touch and let me know what you do with it. Ta-ta.